how lucky we are to have this man as our Vice President. He's one of us. He grew up in mining country. He's for us. Like I said, he grew up in mining country. He grew up in a middle-class family. No escalators for him. But you know, the ladders were there. Education was still affordable. He had to scrub a few floors. And I even think he sold a few cars in a used car lot. It used to be those were the only guys that didn't fare well as politicians in the polls. But this guy worked his way up. He knows what it's like to struggle on an incredibly personal level, but on a broader level. He knows how hard life can be and how important it is for all of us to have those ladders, to have that support that we all need in trying in difficult times. And again, that's what this election contest is really all about. He's a man of peace. He's the guy that presidents and the Congress and people all over the world go to when they need someone who's brilliant, who's intelligent, who is thoughtful, and knows how to bring people together and set the partisanship aside. That's what Joe Biden is all about. We've seen it time and time and again, whether it be strategic arms limitations or a new NATO bringing the old Soviet bloc nations into NATO, whether it be bringing about peace in the Balkans, stopping the genocide in Darfur, in our own nation. After the Tea Party shut this government down and they threatened to shut it down again, the president sent Joe Biden to negotiate a budget deal. With who? None other than Mitch McConnell, who said his goal as a leader in the Senate was to make sure that Obama was not successful. But it was Joe Biden, and went and met with him and put that together. He's been a champion of mining and American manufacturing. He's been a champion of working men and women and people all across this country. His wife Jill, what a wonderful, intelligent, beautiful woman, teaching in a community college. Joe knows how important these community colleges are and how important education is on the ladder of success. Joe is a true champion of working men and women. He's a true champion of the middle class. He understands the American dream. He's the best doggone champion we ever had. Give a warm, heartfelt welcome, Vice President Joe Biden.
I had a reverend uncle who was a great guy, and he used to say, "Joey, your union from belt buckle to shoe sole." I make no apologies about that, because it's good for every American, whether or not they belong to a union. Unions, as I said, built the middle class here in the United States of America. And restoring the middle class, in terms of my view of the president's, and I mean this sincerely, when the president asked me whether I would join him on the ticket, I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't sure. I thought I could help him more in the United States Senate. And he said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "I have one question, and I really mean it." I said, "Do you mean what you said when you said the middle class has to be restored?" He has said from day one that the single most compelling job of our generation is to restore the middle class. Ladies and gentlemen, let me define what I mean by middle class. I got a lot of fancy economists, and they're good people, right as a devil, who work for me in the administration. Serious economists. And you ask an economist what middle class means, and they'll give you a number. They'll say middle class means $51,820 or $53,000. Middle class isn't about a number. Middle Middle class is about a value set. Middle class is about being able to own your own home and not have to rent it. Middle class is about being able to send your child to a park where you know they're going to be safe and they can come home safely. Middle class means being able to send your kid to a local high school where you know if they do well, they can get to college, and if they get to college, you can figure out how to get them there. In the meantime, maybe be able to take care of mom after dad passed away. Middle class means hoping your children will never have to take care of you. That's what middle class is. That's what it is. And today, it's hard to make it to and stay in the middle class. People are doing everything in their power to make it. Mom has to take an extra job in the graveyard shift just to keep meat on the table. Dad's sitting at the kitchen table wondering, how am I going to tell Mary? How am I going to tell Billy that they can't go back to the community college this year, they can't go back to the university? I don't have the money. I can't do it. Remember when, the idea that right here in this town, I'm confident that there are people sitting at the kitchen table today saying, I know, honey, I know we need new tires, but we got to get another 20,000 miles out of those because you can't afford to buy them now. It's the neighborhood I came from. That's where I grew up. And that's where tens of millions of Americans are today. The fact of the matter is, the reason I love this guy is he gets it. I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of really smart people. The guys and women I trust the most to do the right thing are the ones who first feel it in their gut, then it moves to their heart, and then because they have a fine mind, they're able to articulate what they want to do. As opposed to those folks who intellectually arrive at the right decision, but never feel it. Never feel it. Because the guys where it starts in their gut, the women where it starts in their gut, they never bend. They never yield to special interest. They don't back down, they don't back away. They don't forget where they came from. This can't be sustained. This is not your father's Republican Party. These guys are not bad or good, they're just a different breed of cat. They don't get it. They either don't understand the middle class or they don't care about the middle class. And here's the point, guys. When the middle class is doing well, everybody does well. The wealthier get wealthier, and the poor have a way up. I say they care, right, about people in housing. We care about the middle class. Let's take a look. They care about the middle class. Rick was part of the reason why we were able to get 5 million people to be able to refinance their homes and stay in their homes. Rick was part of the reason why that happened. We passed that legislation. His opponents and others, they moved to repeal that legislation, allowing you to refinance. They care about us being able to own a home? Show me. Show me. $3 trillion over 10 years go to people who have to make a minimum of $1 million a year. The minimum tax got to be the average tax would be $87,000 a year. Now look, I want wealthy people. I've had billionaires and millionaires and multi-millionaires. But the last thing they need is another tax cut while the middle class is struggling. That's who these guys are. One last boring study. Keep this in mind. Recent study by Standard & Poor's shows the following. There are 448 companies that have been on the Fortune 500 largest companies in America list for the last 10 years. So why, with all the corporate profits, and it's good to have corporate profits, that's a good thing. Several $1 trillion just this last quarter. But why aren't they expanding jobs? Why aren't they retraining workers? Why aren't employees getting raises? with all this significant new income? Well, they did a study. You know what the corporation's done those 447, I think it is, the last 10 years? They've taken 50% of the profit they made and they buy back their own stock. When they buy back their stock, it raises exponentially the value of the stock that remains. Secondly, they take 37% and give it in dividends to the stockholders. That leaves 9%. Now hear this, 9% of all the profit made by the top Fortune 500 companies goes to expansion, goes to research and development, goes to salaries. And you wonder why? Why the middle class is getting clobbered. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not bad guys, but I tell you what, it's not right. I find it personally offensive. When a decent, honorable person running a hedge fund plays under the law, it's called carried interest, their income tax at 17%. Yet someone working on the range, a steel worker making 60 grand a year, pays 25% of their income. How is that fair? It wasn't ever like that before. Folks, look, I find it personally offensive that there are 20 million people working full-time, breaking their neck to care for their families, who are making $6,000 less than the poverty rate. Let me say that again. 20 million workers today make $6,000 less than the poverty rate after working 40 hours. This used to be bipartisan. The last 3 increases in minimum wage were generated by Republican members of the House and the Senate, as well as Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, and Rick's opponent, I don't know what he pays, I don't know what he earns, I don't know who he is, but I tell you what, the idea that he's offended that the wealthy should pay a little more, and he's opposed to somebody working 40 hours a week being able to make at least what the poverty rate is, above the poverty rate. Look, folks, look at the facts. Only, right now, only 12% of the workers would benefit from raising the minimum wage under the age of 20. 12%. These guys talk about, oh, kicking teenagers out of work. There's no evidence. It's never happened. What it does is grows the economy. It puts $19 billion immediately into the economy. And all is spent because it's all disposable income. They can't invest it, they just have to do it to live, to pay their electric bill, their gas, put food on the table. Look, it's time to restore this bargain. This bargain that used to exist and worked so well for America. The reason why we grew. And with Rick's help, that's exactly what we're going to be able to do. We're going to continue to help people stay in their homes, refinance their homes, increase the number of cops in the street, make our communities safer. We strongly feel the need for universal pre-K so every kid has an even shot when they get moving. Look, folks, we've been standing a long time, but let me tell you something. Just like that, I met a woman who's over 105 years old because in her state, they tried to keep African Americans from voting by changing the voting laws. Then she stood for 12 hours. I believe it was 12. And I met her, and it was a remarkable woman. And I said, why'd you stand? She said, because the most sacred thing I own is my vote. And the sacred thing we win this if you show up. I'll conclude with the following point. The fact of the matter is, we're told how America is so divided. You hear it all the time. There's nothing divided about America. For the first time in my career, on every single major issue that's at stake today, everything from a supposedly controversial immigration and marriage equality to a fair tax system, the American people are in agreement 54% to 76%. What the problem is this new Republican Party. They're not conservative, they're not liberal, they're just simply anti-government. Just anti-government. They're opposed to anything. The idea in America, we rank 28th in the world in terms of the quality of our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our airports, our trains, our planes. Think about it. Think about it. It used to be totally bipartisan. Building America. The return on investment is incredible. It's good paying jobs to build the highway. It's good paying jobs that's created in the highway. And here's the point I want to make to you, why it's so important that Rick win this time. Because folks, America's coming back in a way that is going to lead the world. You know, I got criticized a lot. Some of you who follow national politics will know for the last 15 years I've used the phrase, where is it written that America will not lead the world in manufacturing in the 21st century? Where's that written? Yet every expert was out there telling you that we had to shift to a service economy, that we couldn't attract manufacturing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to hear any more about outsourcing. All you're going to hear from now on is about insourcing. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for it. There's an outfit called A.T. Kearney, the leading management consulting firm in the world. They do a survey. They do a survey every year. They ask the 300 largest industrialists in the world, around the world, where is the best place in the world to invest? By a margin larger than any time in the last 30-some years they've conducted the survey, the rest of the world says America is the best place to invest. For real. There's an outfit called the Boston Consulting Group. They interview every single American company that has a manufacturing facility in China every year. And they ask the following question. They say, what are your plans for next year? And it comes out around March. This year, 54%. 54% of American companies invested in China said they plan on coming home. And there's a reason for it. No, there's a reason for it. It's not provocative. There's a reason for it. The reason is, America is the epicenter of energy for the world in the 21st century. You realize we have more gas and oil rigs pumping in the United States of America right now than all the rest of the world combined. Hear me now? All the rest of the world combined. Mexico, the United States, and Canada will be energy independent by 2017. America will be energy independent, some say as late as 2021. America itself will be energy independent by the 2021 to 2025. That's why they're coming home, because energy is 7 times to 4 times as cheap here than it is in Asia. It costs more to make the product there now. It's 2 to 3 times more than it is in, it's 2 to 3 times as expensive in Europe. That's why they're coming home. We have the most productive workforce in the world. Recent studies show American workers are 3 times as productive as Chinese workers. We have the best research universities in the world. We have a court system that protects intellectual property, and where you can adjudicate. You can't have your property stolen, your company stolen, like you can in so many other countries. That's why they're coming home. But what we need to keep them here is we need the best trained workforce in the world, and we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, if we do those 2 things, we deal back in the middle class. You don't work in a highway construction crew and make minimum wage. You don't deepen a channel or a canal and make minimum wage. You don't widen the berth of a port like we are doing in the East and West Coast and make the minimum wage. You make a decent wage. You can raise your family on it. And you generate so much more because you increase productivity. So guys, here's the deal. This is not rocket science, man. We know how to make it work. We know how to make America work. It needs three things. It needs, number one, to go back to basics. Focus on what's important, what's made this country. Give the middle class a fighting chance. The second thing we need to do is we need to have men and women like Rick. The reason he got those bills passed when no one passes any bills is because he has bipartisan support. He reaches across the aisle. He actually is able to work with other people. Folks, how can you govern America without consensus? How can we go on like this where there's no consensus? You can't do it in America. We're the most heterogeneous nation in the world, democracy. So folks, the second thing we need is folks like Rick. And the third thing we need is we need to stand up and holler for what we are for and make no apologies for what we are for.